You're watching PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
And welcome to PIX on Politics Daily. I'm Henry Rosoff in for Dan. A lot going on in city politics, as there always is. Our main focus for the last few days, frankly, has been this bitter cold weather and the city's response to it. But we are also keeping our eye on the congressional races, which, as the weather gets colder, continue to heat up, particularly a number of very serious primaries that we're watching. In New York, 7 being one of them, with the retirement of Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, the longtime representative from New York City. One of the newest candidates to declare in that race is Julie Wan, a Queens council member, and we are thankful to have Julie here with us today. How are you doing today?
Thank you so much, Henry. It's so good to see you.
Why do you want to run for Congress?
For me, it's very personal. I'm an immigrant. I came here in '98 with my parents and my brother, and to see moms like myself getting shot for standing up for their neighbors, to see nurses, ICU nurses who are putting their lives on the line on a daily basis, get shot because they're protecting another woman, just for being at the place where ICE feels that they're entitled to. It's an extremely dangerous time with paramilitarization of our country. And there is no better time than now to elect an immigrant, to stand up to ICE, and to end family separation. The 5-year-old, the 6-year-old, the children that we're seeing who are dying under ICE custody is extremely heartbreaking. I had a 6-year-old Chinese boy, Yuan Xin, who was deported along with his father, that was detained and missing for a few days, and people were just distraught in my district.
Let's pick up right where you just left off. It's one of the big hot topic questions in Congress right now. There's the risk of a government shutdown over this very issue. Mm-hmm. Should ICE have any funding? Are you on board with the Democratic current position of there should be conditions on that funding? How would you vote if you were in Congress right now? What would you be demanding?
If I was in Congress right now, I think this is a topic that deserves a government shutdown. It is not okay to have thugs who are completely covered. You don't even see. The anonymity is what scares me the most, that people have no accountability for the ways that they're treating other human beings. I have the largest migrant population in the city of New York because as an immigrant, I never turned anyone away. So it's been reported in the news where we have the highest amount of shelters, and we also have the highest amount of students enrolled in our schools because they deserve an education and they also deserve socioeconomic mobility in this country as they seek U.S. citizenship. And because of that, we've spent weeks volunteering at 26 Federal Plaza, where even as a U.S. citizen now, it took me over a decade to get it, they would treat me like an object. They would just pick me up and move me around. But luckily, because I'm an elected official, they're not violent towards me. But as we've seen in the news, they're throwing women down, throwing them across the hall, where you're seeing blood, and there's no humanity in the ways that they treat people. And many of the days that I've been there court watching, the court is not saying that you have a deportation order. Sometimes they would say, I'm sorry, even though you're legally entitled to this translation for your court hearing, we don't have Senegalese. So you're just going to have to deal with a French translator. And we say, no, that's not the right language for him or her. And they say, okay, come back on this court date. And as soon as we leave the courtroom, knowing that he's going to have or she is going to have a court date as a follow-up, they detain those individuals anyway, unlawfully.
Should ICE be abolished?
Yes,
100%. Why?
Because we don't even have a fair process for citizenship right now. And we can't just continue to go back and forth. I think it's irresponsible for both sides of the aisle for what has happened over the last 2 decades. But this is not it. It should not be a militarization where there's no accountability and they're coming in. You saw on Canal Street, they came in with tanks. Men are coming with guns and all we have are whistles. This is not how you deal with immigrants. We've seen statistics show and studies show that immigrants are actually the least likely to become criminals in this country, and they are the economic backbone of our economy because they take on the jobs that most U.S. citizens don't want. And we can't allow this divisiveness and just unruly amount of violence. What we're seeing in Chicago, what we've seen in LA, that is not something that we want to see in New York City. And this is not the way to spend our money when we don't have universal childcare, when we don't even have paid maternity leave in this country, when we don't have retirement with dignity, or even simple things like burial assistance. It shouldn't make you broke just because a family member died. It could cost $40,000 to $60,000 for you to bury a loved one. There are so many more important needs that our country has and our citizens have, and this is not it.
Let's zoom out a little bit and talk about this race and the candidates that are already in it, including two who have very high-profile endorsers. The Brooklyn Borough President, Antonio Reynoso, is running in this Democratic primary. He's endorsed by outgoing Congress member Velasquez. You have an assembly member who's been endorsed by the mayor, a Democratic socialist. You've hopped in last among the three I've mentioned, including yourself. Why get in now to a crowded field where a lot of the chips, to be frank, are already down?
Just to be clear, there's 12 people running in this race. And it should never be the establishment or organizations that decide what your ballot should look like. Citizens deserve choice, and it's a democratic process. Everyone has the right to run, and it is not late because our petitioning hasn't even started. And I have no doubt that other people will also run, not just me. And the way that I've come up in politics is not from either. I come from my community, and when I first ran against, I think originally when I filed to run for council in 2021, there were 21 people registered to run. And they said, oh, wow, like she's not going to have a chance. And I proved them wrong, because at the end of the day, it's about the relationships that you have and why you're running and how your message resonates with voters and how you're going to unite them behind you. It's not necessarily about elected officials, although I have much respect to all those elected officials. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to the voters. And the same way I ran and won the first time, it wasn't with elected officials' endorsements. It was with the endorsement of my voters and the support of the community. And, we'll see how the politics shakes up, because the mayor also endorsed Kathy Hochul, and I don't agree with that. So every individual will have an opinion about those endorsements, and there's a long way to go until June.
Let's talk about the community that you just mentioned. You talked about immigrant issues and ICE specifically. Let's talk about affordability, which generally speaking is viewed as the number one issue when you survey, at least broadly. We haven't surveyed your district. I'm not going to pretend to know the exact contours of it. But on affordability, what have you done in the council that you can point to and say, hey, I made your life more affordable?
This district is over 50% foreign born, like myself. It's a district made of immigrants and children of immigrants. And when it comes to affordability, I have a track record of making sure that, for one, everyone who knew me when I first ran is that I ran on one issue, which was Wi-Fi connectivity for low-income New Yorkers. Within 6 months of being elected, I was able to get all of my NYCHA residents, so all the public housing residents, Queensbridge houses, the largest in the country, as well as Ravenswood houses and Woodside houses, got free internet and cable TV. And through a federal program, we were able to register them from unlimited call and text. So that happened within 6 months of being elected. Within the last 3 years of being elected, I made sure that I worked with the CTO and the city of New York so that every public housing resident who lived in NYCHA got free internet and cable TV with over 80% adoption rate. That's one of the highest adoption rates in the country. And for a public program. And why is that important? Because instead of having them register and spend time, it was an opt-out program where we already knew that you deserved free internet, just like heat and hot water, a utility at this day and age, not a luxury. We made sure that you just got a bill that's at 000 from your internet service provider. And that's money right back into the pockets of the New Yorkers that need it the most. In addition to that, I've added more than 150 3K and pre-K seats into my district. That's the highest amount in any council district within my tenure. I've also built over 18,000 units of housing, especially affordable housing, more than the borough of Queens has in the last 2 decades. I've also passed the 1LIC project, which is why I was on the show last, which is the highest amount of housing passed in a single project in New York City history. So everything from housing to making sure that our shelters are running correctly. And as the former chair of contracts, I also passed the highest amount of bills against contract corruption. And I also focused on food quality for our shelter residents. So I really approach everything that I do in a comprehensive way and leveraging the skills that I have from the private sector, where I worked in tech as a consultant for the last 10 years to make sure that our government is efficient, transparent, and that we are really serving the New Yorkers who need it the most.
Do you have a particular affordability issue you're championing in this congressional campaign? For example, you just mentioned in your council run, free Wi-Fi, particularly for public housing residents. And you've checked a few things, including not having to go broke burying loved ones, to paid parental leave.
Yep.
You mentioned those in passing already, but is there something signature that you're working on that, let's say day one in Congress, you go to the speaker, perhaps Brooklyn's Hakeem Jeffries, and say, hey, this has to be part of what we're doing?
Yes. If you see our campaign video or our campaign website, you'll see that we're running on our platform called A Lifetime of Care. That means from the moment that you're born until the day that you die or retire, that you deserve a government that has your back at every stage of your life. So when we talk about conception or birth, we're talking about prenatal care and postpartum care. Because within my tenure, I've also had constituents who died, especially Black women. The Black maternal mortality rate in New York City is extremely high and frightening. I have never been more heartbroken than sitting down with a widowed father who just breaks down crying, saying, this was my third child and she died in my house 24 hours after being released from the hospital after giving birth. That should not be happening in the richest city of America with the best doctors in this city. And also, in addition to just giving birth, universal childcare. Right now, we're in a great celebratory mood that we're going to start twos, but that's income restricted for families of 4 who make less than $100,000. That's going to leave a lot of us out in the cold, like myself. I have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. It cost me over $4,000 to pay for childcare for both of them. And even though we have great hopes that this twos program will be fully implemented by 2029, which is the projected date that the governor and the mayor have shared publicly, we need more than that. We truly need free cost childcare starting at 13 weeks that really meet parents at their work hours, which is at least 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. And right now, we know that
daycares charge more if you want to take it till 5 o'clock. As the father of a 6 and 3, I can attest to. So I understand what you're saying about the workday.
There's no aftercare. We have to make sure that it matches our workday. We're not all farmers anymore. We're not just working by sunlight. And in addition to that, we continue on. Right now, I'm the chair of workforce development for the city of New York. And what we're seeing is extreme job stagnation. We're talking about the $12 billion budget deficit. We have to make sure that workers are not living in fear that they're going to be obsolete. With deep fakes where they can replace reporters now, and you can't tell the difference between a human being and AI images. And we want to make sure that we're using technology innovation to equip our workers, no matter what industry and field they're in, to make their lives easier and more efficient so that we're delegating menial tasks or administrative tasks to automation, but we don't want you to disappear off the workplace. So we're focused on upskilling our existing employees and also doing workforce development so that every employee feels safe in their job and that they're continuing to grow in their careers. And afterwards, we're also focused on retirement with dignity. We need to reform Social Security because I hear from so many elders from my public housing to all of our immigrant communities and just working class New Yorkers who say, I've worked my whole life at a deli, or I've worked my whole life at a daycare center, and they've had all these jobs. And even though they work the hours, because the government did not deem their hours as highly productive or high wages, when they retire, the retirement funds that they get from Social Security is usually around $200 or less. That's not enough to even pay for your food for a week. So we want to make sure that you can retire with dignity, that there's enough senior housing, culturally appropriate food for your Meals on Wheels, and just transit that really works for our seniors that are accessible and for those with disability. And like we talked about, burial assistance. So if you look at our website, you'll see a lifetime of care where at every stage of your life, we have a list of policies for you, no matter how old you are, no matter what, that even if the world says you're not productive, that you're never seen as disposable, that seniors shouldn't just be warehoused. Because when you're too young, when you're too sick, or you're too old, when the world says that you're no longer profitable for our economy, then you're deemed worthless. And that's not how the government should work.
Well, I'm going to take a hard pivot into a couple of fun questions at the end here. I know we're just talking about, dying with dignity. So apologies for the shift here. But you mentioned you had a 1 and 3-year-old. What's your favorite thing to do with the kids these days?
Because it's so cold now, we've been spending a lot of time in Greenpoint at Space. I don't know if you know the indoor cafes.
Oh, yes. I know Space
Yeah.
Club very well and plenty of
Yeah.
other play cafes. Yes.
Yeah, it's just their favorite thing to do right now. And I think it's a safe space where I can also sit down at the cafe while they're within line of sight, and I can do a little bit of work. And they're having a blast. So in the winter, that's probably our favorite thing to do. In the warmer weathers, we like going to all the public parks, especially Gantry and Dumbo. And we'll continue to do a lot of outdoor fun because I have 2 boys, and you know how energetic they can be.
Yes, yes. and wait until the 1-year-old is able to, knock around the park, which you've already been through with your 3-year-old.
Yeah.
It's mine are 3 and 6, as I mentioned, and the park is something else when they're both on their feet. So best of luck to you there.
Thank you.
And then my favorite question, what's your favorite bagel spot in your let's say your current city council district, and what's your go-to order?
Oh, it's actually a bagel street vendor.
Okay.
So it's this little blue bagel street vendor right outside of the Court Square train station.
Is it Rollin' Bagels?
Yes.
I've been there.
It is Rollin' Bagels.
Joe, what did I give the score at Rollin' Bagels? He doesn't remember. I think I gave it maybe an 8 or something like that. 8 out of 10. I liked it. It was good.
All right. For me, it's a 10 out of 10.
Okay.
And it is an immigrant-owned business. And I always get everything bagel toasted with lox cream cheese on it.
Very
It's
nice.
the best.
They do lox there? I wasn't sure if I normally just taste
yeah.
a sort of basic bagel when I do
You can
these.
get lox, and you can also get whitefish.
Very nice.
I'm a fish person.
Julie Wan, council member from Queens, running for New York 7 to replace Nydia Velasquez, who's retiring. Council member, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Henry.
And that'll do it for this edition of PIX on Politics. I'm Henry Rosoff, filling in for Dan, and wishing you a great day.